the sky over Varnock turned red. At first, the alien citizens thought it was a rare weather event. Some even came out of their homes to watch. Children laughed, pointing at the strange colors. But soon, those colors changed. They started moving, like fire, fast, hot, and angry. Then the sound came. A loud, sharp boom echoed through the air. Windows shattered, towers shook. And then the first building fell. High in the control tower of Varnock's defense command, General Tirak watched in horror. The screens in front of him blinked, showing chaos across the planet. Cities were under attack. Their satellites were going dark. All long-range communication was failing. His officers were shouting, their hands flying over control panels, trying to restart systems that were no longer responding. "This can't be a natural disaster," one officer said. "It's too fast. Too precise." Tirak didn't answer. He stared at a grainy image from one of the last working drones. It showed something small moving quickly through the smoke, faster than any of their tracking systems could lock onto. Then the feed cut off, just static. The planet's defense grid, made to stop meteor strikes and space pirates, was completely useless. It had gone offline within the first few minutes of the attack. No warning, no time to react. Something or someone had shut it down from the inside. At that moment, the doors burst open. A scout officer ran in, covered in ash and blood. His breathing was heavy. His uniform was torn. "They came from the sky," he said, gasping. "They were fast. No ships, just drop pods, landed directly on our military bases." Tirak narrowed his eyes. "Who?" The scout looked up, fear clear in his expression. "Humans," he whispered. It was humans. Silence fell over the command room. Tirak stepped forward. "That's impossible. Humans never come this far. They don't have the power for a deep space jump to Varnock." "They didn't come in ships," the scout replied. "I saw them, on the ground. Small units, maybe 5 or 6 in each, moving together like machines. But they weren't machines. They smiled." Another officer spoke up. "They're just wild primitives. Their planet is loud, dirty, and full of chaos. They don't even follow the galactic code." The scout shook his head. "These ones were organized and deadly. They knew our weak points. They took down our communication towers first. They used our own systems to blind us." On the screen, another city went dark. No data, no signals, nothing. Tirak clenched his fists. "How many of them are there?" The scout looked up slowly. "Not many. That's the worst part. We estimate fewer than 30. The room went silent again. Everyone understood what that meant. 30 humans, just 30, had brought an entire planet to its knees. Tirak ordered all troops to fall back and defend the central capital. But the lines were already broken. Reports came in of command centers being captured. Entire defense teams were vanishing. Some tried to fight back, but the humans were using tactics the aliens had never seen before. Small, quick strikes, sudden traps, psychological warfare. Explosions came from nowhere. Lights would go out, and soldiers would disappear in the dark. In the southern sector, one of the generals tried to activate the planet's emergency shield. But the system didn't respond. Instead, a message appeared on the control panel. "System locked. Observation in progress." No one knew what it meant. Observation by whom? That night, a drone managed to record one of the human attackers. He stood alone on a ruined street, smoke rising around him. He was not running. He was not hiding. He was calm, holding a weapon at his side, scanning the area like he was out for a walk. The footage was played back in the command room. Officers leaned forward, trying to understand. This human didn't look afraid. He looked curious. "Who sends scouts without fear?" one of the commanders asked. "Earth," Tirak answered. "Earth does." Long ago, Earth had sent a message to the Galactic Council. It said, "We seek peace, but if tested, we will not hold back." Most alien empires had laughed. Earth was emotional, chaotic, full of unpredictable behavior. They thought it made humans weak. But today, Varnock learned the truth. This was no full attack, no massive army, no warships in orbit. This was only a scout force, and yet their cities were burning. In the middle of the capital, alarms screamed. An explosion lit up the sky. Tirak looked up, knowing what it meant. The humans had reached the heart of Varnock. They had broken through everything. But why? What did they want? Tirak whispered, "This doesn't make sense. Why send only a few? Why not invade fully?" Then one of the human captives, caught in the outer fields, was brought to the council. He was wounded, quiet, but alive. Tirak stood in front of him. "What do you want from us?" he asked. The human smiled faintly and said, "Nothing. We're just here to take notes." Tirak stepped back in shock. "Notes?" And then the human said one more thing. "This isn't war. It's a test." Years before the attack, Earth had sent a message to the Galactic Council. It was short, direct, and strange. "We do not want war, but we are prepared. Please do not test our patience." Many alien empires laughed. Even the Varnock High Council had mocked it. General Tirak remembered that day clearly. They had all sat in the grand chamber watching the message play on a hologram. One elder had even clapped sarcastically. "Humans," he had said, "are loud children playing with fire." Now, years later, those same elders were hiding underground, their cities in ruins, their systems broken. Tirak stood in the emergency chamber deep below the capital, watching reports come in on cracked screens. Most of their defense outposts had gone silent. Surveillance drones were blind, their long-range scanners were being jammed. The humans had planned this carefully. Tirak's second-in-command, Officer Kelmar, walked in with a pale face. "General," he said, "the Science Ministry has analyzed the attack pattern." Tirak looked up. "Tell me." Kelmar hesitated. It wasn't a full-scale invasion. No large ships, no heavy weapons. Only small groups. Fast, silent, effective. "We know that," Tirak said. "The question is why." Kelmar took a deep breath. "Because, General, this wasn't an invasion. It was a message." Tirak didn't speak. He turned back to the screen. A flickering video played. A group of alien soldiers entered a ruined base. There was no sign of human attackers, only strange devices left behind. The soldiers touched nothing. They just stood and looked around, confused. Then, one by one, they started to disappear. The video stopped. Kelmar said, "We found no bodies, just empty armor, no gunfire, no warning, just silence." Tirak rubbed his forehead. "How are they doing this? Are they invisible?" "No," Kelmar said. "Just better, smarter. They know our systems. They know how we think. They've studied us." Tirak's fists tightened. "We ignored the warning. We thought humans were weak. We said they were emotional, unstable." Kelmar nodded. "We thought they were just noise, but we were wrong." More reports came in. Varnock soldiers had tried to ambush the human scouts in the western zone. The humans didn't fight back. They vanished into the shadows. The Varnock troops set up a trap using heat scanners and motion sensors. But when they checked the next morning, their sensors had been turned around. The trap had been flipped. 2 squads were missing. Then came the worst report. The planetary AI core had gone dark. Varnock's greatest creation, a superintelligent system that managed their weapons and security, was no longer responding. Instead, a single line appeared on the mainframe's display. "System observed. You were warned. It was clear now." The humans had been watching them for a long time, quietly, silently, like shadows in the dark. In the council bunker, panic was growing. One elder shouted, We must surrender. Send them a message. Apologize. Another said, surrender to. What? We don't even know their demands. They haven't spoken. Tirak raised his voice. Enough! The room went quiet. He continued, these aren't conquerors. They didn't come for land or power. They came to test us, to see how we would react under pressure. Kelmar added, and we failed. A young officer walked in, holding a data pad. General, we captured something strange. Tirak turned. A human? The officer shook his head. No, sir. A message. Hidden in one of our satellites. It was sent days before the attack. He handed the data pad to Tirak. The message played, observe reaction, limit damage, test response time, note resistance behavior. Scout force activated. Do not reveal main body. The room fell into deep silence. Tirak sat down slowly. This was a test. And what we're facing isn't even the real force. Kelmar whispered. Then what will happen if they send more? Outside, the skies were still red. Fires burned across the land, but there were no battles, no enemy fleets above. Just silence. Silence that made everyone more afraid than any war. Back in the chamber, Tirak stood again. Prepare all remaining units. Defend the capital. But also, send a message to Earth. One elder spoke up nervously. What should the message say? Tirak didn't hesitate. Tell them we understand. Tell them we wish to speak. Tell them we were wrong. The elder nodded and left. As Tirak watched another city go dark on the screen, he thought about that first warning Earth had sent. He finally understood the meaning behind it. Earth wasn't loud because they were weak. Earth was loud because they were trying to be friendly, but now they were quiet, and that silence was terrifying. The message to Earth was sent with the last working deep space relay on Varnock. It was short, respectful, and full of fear. It said, we understand. We seek peace. Please respond. No answer came. Minutes passed, then hours, then a full day. Still, the humans said nothing. Tirak stayed in the command bunker, watching the maps. Red zones continued to spread across the planet. But no human armies appeared. No great machines. No demands. Just silence and strange disappearances. Patrols sent into the forests didn't return. Drones lost contact. Even satellites above the planet stopped sending data. It was as if the humans had placed a quiet hand over the entire world and were squeezing gently, but never too hard. In the northern zone, a group of scientists tried to recover data from a destroyed base. They found something strange. On a metal wall, carved by hand, was a message. It said, not war, just warning. The carving was clean, smooth, like it had been done with a laser. The scientists brought it to Tirak. He stared at it for a long time. They're speaking to us, he said softly, but not with words, with actions. In the south, a small group of Varnock soldiers finally caught a human. The scout had been injured by falling debris. His left leg was broken and he carried no weapon. But when they approached him, he didn't run. He just sat there, calm, like he was waiting. They brought him to Tirak under heavy guard. The human was young, maybe in his early 30s by human standards. His face was calm, eyes sharp. Even now, surrounded by armed soldiers, he didn't look afraid. Tirak sat across from him. What do you want from us? Tirak asked. The human looked at him for a moment. Then he answered in perfect Varnock language. We wanted to see. See what? The human smiled slightly. How you react, how your systems work, how you respond when your strength is taken. From you. Tirak leaned forward. Why? For what reason? Because we need to know, the human said. We're entering a new age. The galaxy is changing. Peace is no longer built with words. It's built with understanding. And you can't understand someone until you've seen what they do when they're losing. Tirak was quiet for a long time. And if we had fought well? He asked. If we had held strong? The human nodded. Then we would have respected you. But you didn't fight with courage. You panicked. You ran. Your leaders hid. Your systems collapsed the moment we touched them. Tirak looked at the screens again. So many cities gone, so much fear. This was only a test, the human said. We are scouts, not warriors. Tirak swallowed hard. Then what are the real warriors like? The human's smile faded. You don't want to meet them. At that moment, a message arrived on the emergency channel. It was from one of the oldest colonies on the edge of Varnock space, a quiet place, mostly farmers and engineers. The message was short. We saw them. They didn't hurt us. They left food, medical kits. One of them repaired our generator. Tirak read the message twice. He turned to the human scout. Why? Why help them? The human answered. Because they weren't threats. They didn't attack us. They didn't mock us. They listened. So we showed mercy. Tirak stood slowly. So this was always about us, about how we behave. The human nodded. Yes. Tirak sighed. Then what happens now? The human looked him in the eye. That depends on your next move. After that, the human was taken to a secured room, not as a prisoner, but as a guest. Tirak gave strict orders, no harm, no questions. Just observe. Back in the council chamber, Tirak faced the elders. They were afraid, broken, and quiet. They are testing us, Tirak told them. Measuring who we are, one elder whispered. And if we fail? Tirak's voice was heavy. Then we won't see the next wave. And we won't survive it. He turned to the screens. One by one, the red zones began to disappear, not because they were healing, but because the humans were leaving them, quietly, like ghosts, no sound, no sign, just gone. And on each site, they left behind something, a message carved in stone or metal, always in the same words. Observe, learn, adapt, or be left behind. The meaning was clear now. Earth didn't come to destroy. They came to test, to see who was ready for the new galaxy and who wasn't. And Varnock had failed. But maybe, just maybe, they had one last chance to change. Tirak stood on the platform, above the capital's ruins, looking out at the broken buildings. The fires were out now. The skies had cleared. But the silence remained. The kind of silence that feels heavy, like the world was waiting for something to happen. The human scout was still in the care of Varnock guards, but he had not tried to escape. He didn't ask for food or water or weapons. He only asked for one thing, to speak with Varnock's young. Tirak didn't understand at first. Why the young? He had asked. The scout replied, because the old already decided what they believe. The young still have a chance to see the truth. It was a strange answer, but Tirak allowed it. A small group of students, barely old enough to serve in the Varnock fleet, sat in a classroom deep inside the shelter. And there, the human spoke to them. He didn't speak of war or death. He spoke of Earth, of how humans had once nearly destroyed their own planet, of how they had fought each other for centuries, but how somehow they had changed, how they had learned to adapt, unite, and survive. We are dangerous, the human said, but not because we want to be, because we learned that kindness is a choice, and strength means nothing if you don't use it wisely. The students listened. Some asked questions. Others just stared. Outside the room, Tirak watched through a screen. He had never heard a human speak like that. It was not the voice of a soldier. It was something else. Something deeper. Later that night, Tirak walked alone through what was left of the central square. The human scout followed, walking slowly, his legs still weak. Tirak didn't stop him. "Why are you still here?" Tirak asked. The human looked up at the stars. "Because my mission isn't finished." Tirak frowned. "What is your mission?" "To see if your people can be part of what comes next." Tirak was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "What is coming next?" The human turned to him. "A galaxy where survival is not just about weapons or ships, but about choices, unity, trust. Not every species will make it. Some will fall behind, others will be left in the dark. We're choosing who to take with us." "You mean," Tirak said slowly, "you're building an alliance?" The human nodded. "The kind that will shape the next 1,000 years." Tirak looked down at the ruins again. He thought of the elders, still arguing in their chambers. He thought of the cities that had fallen, the soldiers who had vanished, the silence in the skies. Then he thought of the students, the way they had listened. "I don't know if my people are ready," Tirak said honestly. The human shrugged. "That's not my decision. But it's not too late to start." Suddenly, a signal beeped from Tirak's communicator. It was urgent. "General," came Kelmar's voice. "You need to see this. Now!" Tirak rushed back to the bunker. On the screen was a live feed from a Varnock scout ship stationed at the edge of the system. A massive object had just entered from deep space. It was dark, quiet and massive, larger than anything the Varnock had ever seen. A single word appeared on the ship's sensor logs. "Observer-class vessel, the Australis. No weapons charged, no invasion force, just a presence." The human scout, standing beside Tirak now, whispered, "That's our command ship. They're here to make a decision." Tirak's stomach twisted. "Decision?" he asked. The human nodded. "Whether your species is ready or needs more time in isolation." Tirak turned sharply. "You would isolate us from the galaxy?" "If your leaders cannot change." "Yes." The tension in the room rose. Varnock officers looked nervous, some angry. "You don't have that right," one of them shouted, but the human simply looked at Tirak. "We didn't ask for the right, we earned it." Tirak raised his hand to silence the room. He stared at the screen. The massive human vessel did nothing. It just waited, watching. Then Tirak gave an order, a strange one no one expected. "Call the elders, all of them. I want them in the square, not in their bunkers, in the open. Let them see what we've become. Let the humans see it too." There was silence. Then the officers obeyed. Within hours, the elders stood in the open square, surrounded by survivors, soldiers, students, and above them, the dark shape of the human vessel floated, like a quiet god watching the world. Tirak walked to the center, stood in front of the crowd, and raised his voice. "We were arrogant. We ignored a warning. We mocked what we didn't understand. But today, we choose to change." He turned to the sky. "We don't ask for power or weapons. We ask for a second chance." Then he lowered his head, and for a long time, nothing happened. But finally, from the ship above, a signal came. One line of simple text, "Potential acknowledged." Tirak smiled. It wasn't a promise, but it was hope. The skies above Varnock were still, but every eye was watching the silent ship in orbit. The Australis. It hadn't moved. It hadn't spoken again, yet its presence was felt like a weight across the planet. Every government, every citizen, every soldier held their breath. They all waited for what came next. Inside the command room, Tirak stood beside the human scout. The alien general, once proud and sure, now moved with careful steps and chosen words. Around him, the other commanders whispered and argued. Some wanted to launch missiles at the ship. Others demanded surrender. Tirak said only one thing: "We listen." The message from the human vessel had been short, Potential acknowledged. But what did it mean? A second chance? A warning? No one knew, and the humans weren't answering questions. Then, 3 Varnock ships returned from deep patrol. Their captains brought recordings, footage from the edge of the system, and what they showed shocked everyone. It was not just the Australis in orbit. In the far corners of space, other vessels had been seen. Quiet, dark, and still. Some shaped like knives, others like stars. They didn't move, didn't send signals, but they were there, watching, waiting. One captain, voice shaking, said, "It's not just one scout force, it's a network. Earth has eyes everywhere." Tirak stared at the images. He whispered, "We never knew their strength." The human scout nodded. "You were never meant to. In the city, things were changing, fast. The elders, once loud and proud, had gone quiet. Many stepped down from their positions, some out of fear, others out of guilt. Younger voices began to rise, those who had listened, who had watched the scouts speak to the students. And then, something happened that no one expected. The human scout requested to speak publicly, not just to Varnock leaders, but to the people. Tirak allowed it. In the central square, with cameras rolling across every screen on the planet, the human stood on a platform made from broken stone and scorched metal. He spoke calmly. His words were simple. "I am not your enemy. I was sent to see your soul, not your weapons, not your armies, your heart. We do not fear strength. We fear blind pride. We fear those who believe they are ready for peace, but only know war." The crowd was silent. "We tested your systems, your leaders, your response to fear. You failed." Murmurs ran through the audience. "But failure," the scout continued, "does not mean the end. If you can learn from it, it becomes your first step." Then, for the first time, he looked into the camera. "To the people of Varnock, your leaders may fear change, but you do not. I've seen it in your eyes, in the way your children listen, in the way your survivors help each other. That is why we wait. That is why we hope." He stepped down. No cheers, no applause, just deep thought. Everywhere across the planet, people sat in silence. Tirak walked beside the scout. "You risked a lot by speaking." The human nodded. "Sometimes the truth is worth the risk." In orbit, the Australis moved. For the first time since arriving, it turned slowly. A quiet hum filled the skies. Lights along its hull began to glow. A soft blue light, nothing threatening. Just a signal. A voice came through all communication lines. Calm, powerful, observation complete. "Phase 2 begins." Tirak stood up, eyes wide. "What is Phase 2? The scout smiled gently. "Now, we teach." Within hours, smaller human ships descended. They landed softly, with no weapons raised. They brought tools, machines, and data. Crystals. Not soldiers, teachers. Every city that had survived was offered the same thing. Knowledge, not orders, not control, just lessons. Medicine, power systems, history files. Even languages from across the galaxy. It was a gift, but not everyone accepted it. Some regions refused. They shouted that it was a trick, that the humans were trying to take control through kindness. But most opened their doors. In one ruined school, children sat again, this time with strange devices showing holograms of planets far beyond Varnock space. In an old hospital, doctors learned how to heal wounds that once meant death. Engineers studied human gravity systems. Farmers learned how to grow food in barren soil. Tirak walked through the capital's central hub, watching all of it and everywhere. He saw hope, not forced, not demanded, offered. Later, the scout came to him again. "This isn't the end," the scout said. "It's the beginning." Tirak nodded. Of what? Of earning your place. Tirak looked up at the sky, where the Australis now hovered quietly, lights glowing like distant stars. And if we fail again? He asked. The scout didn't smile. He simply said, then we stop coming back. And with that, the real test had begun. The great human vessel, the Australis, stayed in orbit, quiet, but always watching. The smaller teaching ships remained on the ground, guiding, helping, and sometimes silently judging. Across Varnock, life was beginning again. Cities were no longer on fire. Schools reopened. Hospitals worked better. Energy flowed again. It was a new start. But not everyone was happy. In the cold region of Narketh, a group of old Varnock warlords gathered. They had lost power when the human scout arrived. Their forces had been ignored. Their orders no longer followed. These leaders, once feared, were now seen as outdated, stuck in the past. They blamed the humans. This is not peace, one growled. This is control. Quiet control. They've not conquered us with weapons. They've conquered us with gifts. The others agreed. They formed a plan. At the same time, Tirak was in the capital's council chamber, reviewing the latest reports. Most of the planet had accepted the human aid. Many regions were improving fast. Better air, better food, fewer diseases. But something still felt wrong. There were rumors, silent movements, black market deals for old weapons, disappearances. The scout entered the room. You sense it too, the human said. Tirak looked up. Something is building, the scout nodded. Some are preparing to strike. But why now? Tirak asked. They've seen what you can do, the scout spoke calmly. Because they still think this is a game of ships and bombs. They still don't understand that this is a test of character. And they're failing. The Varnock warlords didn't wait long. Late at night, they launched their attack. Not on the capital, not on Tirak, but on the human teaching centers. They bombed 3 sites, killed 5 human instructors, burned the learning equipment, and broadcasted their message to the world. We are Varnock. We bow to no outsider. The world watched in shock. Panic spread. The teaching ships pulled back. The Australis went dark. No messages, no light, just silence. Tirak rushed to the ruins of one of the centers. He found a broken data pad. A child's drawing still clutched in a small alien hand. One of the students. Tirak dropped to his knees. He had seen war. He had seen death. But this felt like betrayal, not just to the humans, but to their own future. The scout arrived hours later. His face was different now, cold, not angry, disappointed. I warned you, he said softly. Tirak stood up. This was not us. These were old leaders, fools. But your world allowed them to rise again, the human replied. We offered knowledge. You let ignorance fight back. Tirak's voice broke. What happens now? The scout looked up. We step back. You will fix this, alone, if you can. And then the teaching ships left, not just from the city, from the planet. They flew silently into the sky, rejoining the Australis, and that massive ship turned slowly away from Varnock. The message came through one last time. Phase 2, suspended. Review period begins. You have 1 cycle. Tirak called an emergency meeting. All regional leaders, no excuses, no delays. In the central chamber, he stood before them. You all saw what happened, he began, and you know who's to blame. But this is no longer about blame. This is about whether we deserve a future. Some argued. Some wept. Others sat silently. Tirak slammed his fist on the table. We have 1 cycle. That's 1 Varnock year. 1 chance. If we don't change fast, they will not return, and we will be left behind. But what can we do? One asked. Without their help? Tirak turned. We still have what they gave. The knowledge, the tools, the systems. It's not about needing their hand. It's about proving we can walk without it. And so began the hardest months in Varnock history. No more aid ships, no more hologram lessons, no more human visitors, but something else grew. Responsibility. The people began to protect the remaining human knowledge. Students rebuilt schools using what they had learned. Engineers shared the data before it could be lost. Soldiers hunted the warlords who had attacked. No mercy, no delay. Tirak worked day and night, leading, teaching, defending. In hidden caves, the warlords tried to strike again, but this time the people were ready. Varnock citizens turned against them. Whole cities rose up. The warlords fell, one by one. And slowly, hope returned. In the capital square, once again full of life, Tirak stood under the stars. He looked up at the empty sky and whispered, "We are ready to be more." But no reply came. Not yet. 1 year passed. The sky remained quiet. No sign of the Australis. No messages. No signals. No sound. But Varnock had changed. Cities once broken were now alive with energy. Not because of human machines, but because the people had learned how to use what they were given. Farms grew strong, children laughed again, schools taught both Varnock knowledge and human ideas, soldiers became protectors, scientists became leaders, and Tirak, he became something else, not a general, not a war hero, a guide. He traveled city to city, village to village, not with orders, but with questions. What do you know now? What have you done with it? Are you better than before? And each time the answer was stronger. In a small town, a girl who had once watched the human, Scout now taught 10 others. She had written her own book, What the Humans Meant. It became popular across the planet. In a mountain outpost, a former warrior built a school from the remains of an old base. He taught children how to build, not destroy. Across Varnock, the people waited, not with fear, with hope. Then, on the last night of the Varnock cycle, the stars shifted. A light appeared, bright, silent. The Australis had returned, but it was not alone. Dozens of ships followed, each one different in shape and color. Some small, some massive, some made by humans, others not. They all came together, hovering above Varnock. The world looked up and held its breath. A message appeared on every screen. No voice, just words. Final evaluation begins. In the capital square, the same place where the scout had once spoken, a new figure appeared, not a soldier, not a teacher, a human child. She walked slowly, calmly, to the center of the stage. Cameras zoomed in. People gathered around. The child looked no older than 10. She smiled softly and spoke. "You did better than we hoped." Tirak stepped forward from the crowd. "Who are you?" he asked. The girl answered, "I am a messenger. We are many. We come when it matters." Tirak blinked. "Where is the scout?" "He watches," she replied. "From above. He spoke for your world. Now, you speak for yourselves." Tirak stood tall. "Then I speak. We were proud. We were foolish. But we listened. We worked. We changed. Not because we were afraid, but because we wanted to be better." The child smiled again. "And you are. But there is one last truth to hear." The people leaned closer. "You were never the only ones tested," she said. "Across the stars, many worlds receive the same visit. Most fail. They attack. They lie. They destroy what they are given." Tirak asked, "And those who pass?" "They are welcomed," she said, "into something larger, something ancient. A circle of worlds that choose growth over war, understanding over pride." The crowd was silent. Tirak whispered, "Are we invited?" The child turned her eyes to the stars, and one by one the ships above lit up. A wave of soft colors filled the sky. Blue, gold, green, white. Then the message appeared again, Varnock accepted. Tears ran down Tirak's face. Around him, others cried, cheered, held hands. For the first time in their history, they had not won by fighting, they had won by learning. The messenger stepped forward and held out her hand. Not to Tirak, to a young Varnock child in the crowd. "Come," she said, "your future is waiting." The child stepped forward, slowly, nervously, but with wide eyes full of wonder. Tirak turned to the people. "This is what the humans were trying to show us," he said. "Power is not what you take, it's what you build. Together." High. Above, the Astralis slowly turned, lights pulsing like a heartbeat. And for the first time since arriving, it sent one final message. You were never alone. Then, like a dream ending at sunrise, the ships rose higher into the sky, faster and faster, until they vanished like shooting stars. But the light they left behind stayed. In the minds, in the hearts, and in the new future of Varnock.